When I was in 7th grade, I went to a small school with 4 people total in my 1st through 8th grade class. There was Alyssa in 8th grade, me in 7th grade, Alex in 4th grade, and my sister in 2nd grade. In this school, creativity was discouraged, and English class started and stopped with the orange grammar mechanics book. Rules were important, rules were followed. And if you had a different perspective from the teacher, you could expect to be yelled at and told to be grateful. And if you were an ungrateful monster who didn't agree with the teacher, well, that didn't go over very well. I was not about that. So I started several projects, things like running an 11-minute mile during recess while our teacher was eating his protein bar, putting together a 4-person Yankee Doodle band, and even writing a booklet about the history of our school for its 50th anniversary. We interviewed past and present students and teachers, compiled 25 images from the last 25 years, and even thought of 50 reasons to love our school. But when I started high school, I thought things would be different. I thought we would learn how to be better writers and more effective communicators. But that didn't happen. And I know it's not just my school, nor is it the education system in Colorado. I've been to 5 schools in 6 years, and really the only one that taught me how to be a better writer was my 4th grade poetry class. Everywhere else, we spent weeks on grammar basics and were told to never use contractions in our writing. But in order to become a compelling communicator, you need to write the way you talk. Use contractions if you want, and don't be afraid of the occasional exclamation point or one-sentence paragraph. But what if you're a highly educated professional, someone like Dave, my dentist? Do people care about Dave's dog, Beethoven? Do they care that he makes kids excited to get their cavities filled by singing Disney songs to them? Do they care if he wears red superhero socks? I think they do, partly because getting a cavity filled is scary, and partly to get a taste of Dave's personality. I don't know if you've noticed, but there seems to be a dentist office on every corner around here. All of whom probably have some sort of dentistry degree, all of whom probably know what they're doing in the dentist chair. But how do most people choose a dentist? 76% choose based on the dentist's friendliness. Or in other words, their personality. Not the awards or the accolades that they've won, or even how close they are to your house, but their friendliness, their personality, and how they portray that through their writing and storytelling on their website and social media. So how can you be a better writer? Well, there are 3 things that I want to share with you today. The first one is to get specific. Drill down on the specific details of a moment in time. Use your 5 senses so that the reader can be brought into that moment that you're talking about. This is a great way to start off a speech or a presentation or a persuasive essay, but it can really just be used anywhere in your writing to soften it up or drive your point home. I told you that my dentist, Dave, had a dog, but I could have gotten more specific. I could have told you the breed of this dog, what kind of fur, what color the fur. Did this dog have long fur, short fur, no fur? Did I have any experiences with this dog that I could share? Maybe the dog always, when I went into the dentist's office, was on its 17-year-old bed, or maybe this dog would always run up to you, no matter how many times the dentist told him to settle down. The second way to be more creative in your writing is to use storytelling. Now in kids, research shows that storytelling can help with critical thinking skills. That's important. Visualization. But really for anyone, when you tell your story, someone can see themselves in it and be brought into your life and the things that you're talking about. Instead of skimming the first and last sentence of your paragraph because they have to, they'll be hanging on to every detail because they want to hear every word that you're saying. Now, most of you probably didn't go to a one-room schoolhouse, but maybe you could think of a time when a boss or a teacher or a parent tried to silence your voice. And the last way to write more creatively, and this one is probably my favorite, is to use better verbs. Now, this is super easy to implement, and it's something I learned from a copywriter, Lucy, someone who writes websites and sales pages and emails for small businesses, but got D's in English class because she tried to write creatively. Figure that one out. But Lucy said when you're writing and you want to get more specific, one way to do that is to focus on your verbs. And instead of using those basic verbs that we hear all the time, run or walk, you can spice it up with more interesting verbs like scamper or prance or dance. So how can teachers help students become better writers? Well, it starts with the environment that you're creating in your classroom. Are you creating an environment where students feel comfortable sharing their thoughts and ideas? Or are they afraid to speak up because they feel like they'll be silenced or told to be quiet? Once you're aware of that environment, there are two ways that I would like to suggest that you can make your classroom, the writing that your students create, more creative. The first way is to talk less. Talk less and listen more. Celebrate when students have questions and actually take the time to answer them. A lot of the times I've seen there's these 3 things we need to get done today, and when someone asks a question that's maybe a little bit irrelevant, we shy away from it because we don't have time for that. But what if you instead took that opportunity to teach kids how to have a conversation, to disagree politely, instead of just yelling and calling people names? These are real-world skills that teachers can help students develop in the writing classroom. The second way is through something called problem-based learning. And problem-based learning is built around the idea that the purpose of English education, literary education, language arts education, is to show students that they can have an impact on their world. So instead of giving every student the same Romeo and Juliet excerpt that they have to read, and then asking them to write a literary analysis on it, pretending that they can understand that Old English and that they didn't actually just look up a summary, give them the chance to find an issue in their community that they're passionate about, and write a speech or a letter or a presentation or an email, talking about potential ways to solve that problem. Again, giving them real-world skills that they can use in the workplace. Or maybe you want to start with, instead of giving every student the same one book to write a book report, in which case you really get 25 versions of the same, regurgitating the whole story back to you. That's kind of boring to read, don't you think? You give them options. Here are 3 different books that you can read. And instead of just telling me the whole plot, I want you to dig deeper. Maybe tell me what you think the message is, or what's the theme, or how do you see this yourself in this book, or what character do you relate to the most? Giving students the opportunity to think more creatively, to go deeper, because they can, especially at a high school level. Smart, talented people are restrained from reaching their full potential because they can't communicate compellingly. Students who have always been told how to think and what to say are paralyzed when it comes to using their voice to stand up for themselves. It's time to break free of the one-size-fits-all English curriculum so that students can stand out in a sea of information through the words they write. Thank you.